Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to give it a minute or two here as folks trickle in to the webinar, but thank you for joining us today, and we're looking forward to the conversation. All right, it looks like the velocity has slowed down in terms of people entering, so I think we are good to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining. My name is Brian Ashton. I serve as Chief Strategy and Growth Officer at Trellis and Managing Director of our Trellis Strategies team. We're really excited for this conversation here today to bring our colleagues from the National Student Clearinghouse in to talk about some of the resources that they have as we adapt and look at some of the new regulation related to gainful employment and financial value. And so I am going to turn it over to them. We are going to be recording this conversation today, and we'll be sending it out to registered attendees, as well as anybody who is interested in seeing it after the fact. We do have the Q&A feature that is open and available to you to drop in questions at any point. And we'll, I think, have some time for questions here at the end. So certainly feel free to drop them in as we go, but we'll have some dedicated time here at the end for questions as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Melba and Sean, who are our colleagues from the National Student Clearinghouse and are experts on the topic. And again, thank you both for being with us, and we're really excited for our conversation here today.
Thank you. Sean, I'll kick off. I am Melba Amisi, Vice President of Corporate Strategy, Marketing, and Customer Experience. I'll be here today supporting Sean, but I'm very interested to see the questions that come, and I'll be monitoring those questions and taking back anything we can't answer today. And as we hear new things from you, hopefully adjusting our FAQs on our website. Sean?
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean McTighe. I am the executive apologies, this is my second webinar today. I am the Executive Director of Title IV Compliance and Data Intake Operations here at the National Student Clearinghouse. So my teams are responsible for bringing all of the compliance data into the organization. That includes the enrollment, degree data, and your research data, so that we can make sure that we report your data to the Department of Education, Federal Student Aid, National Student Loan Data System, and our participating lenders, servicers, and guarantors, and keep you in compliance. So we see this gainful employment and financial value transparency set of regulations as a key part of the service that we can provide to you. It is a free service that is included with the enrollment reporting service that we do for nearly 3,600 institutions, and we're really excited to walk you through the requirements, the functionality that we're going to be offering, and how you can sign up today. So I'm going to share my screen. And I want to apologize to all of you in advance that may have been on some of the other webinars that we've done. Some of this will be a little bit repetitive, but hopefully it'll give you all an opportunity to ask some questions in a smaller group setting. And our goal really here is to emphasize some of the resources that we're able to provide you, and exactly where we're at in the development of the service, and exactly what we're going to be providing through each stage of the process. So I'll talk a little bit about the solution background and our timeline. What are the reporting expectations, and how does our solution meet those reporting expectations? And then talk about each of the reporting requirements themselves, including the completers list, the student detail report, and the program file. And then, like I said, just really briefly hit on how to activate with the clearinghouse, and then share some key takeaways with you all so that you can leave this meeting with some next steps. So thinking about just the very high level background on how did we get to this place where the clearinghouse said this is important for us to work with our schools, work with the Department of Education to come up with a solution to support you all. We started actively working with FSA and NSLDS in December. They actually reached out to us and said, we really need your support. You work with a lot of institutions. We know this is going to be complicated. Is there a role that you can play in this space that can make this easier for schools? And so we pulled together an advisory team, and we really started to look at this not as a point in time solution, But as the conversation around return on investment continues to evolve for higher education, and as compliance requirements continue to change, we are looking at this from a sustainability perspective. So not just financial value and gainful employment, but I know we're all hoping and praying that that goes away. But if that were to go away, how is this also able to support things like short-term Pell requirements and the evolution of state reporting requirements that we're seeing, that evolution in accreditation that we're seeing? And are there things that we can make easier for institutions, including what we do right now for enrollment reporting and degree reporting? Our release 1, which is going to be focused on the completers list part of the requirements, is going to be available the first week of August for our beta schools, and then for all of our schools on August 12th. And schools can sign up for the service now. And like I said, this is just an add-on to your standard compliance service. So we meet regularly with the Department of Education at least on a weekly basis. And what we do is we advocate on behalf of your institutions. Every institution has flexibility with how they interpret the regulations and policies that are put out by the Department of Education. Every institution is a snowflake, we know that. And so we want to make sure that as the regulations are being operationalized, the Department of Education understands that one school may not operate the same way as a different school. There are different term structures. There are different ways in which students enroll in programs and students complete programs, and give consideration to the variability of how you support your students. As I mentioned, we also have this advisory team, and this advisory team has been essential in the development of this solution. They have helped us look at our wireframes and the user experience and the user interface, really making sure that it is something that is going to be easy to navigate. They've helped us draft resources and communications. You guys are getting flooded with communications right now from the Department of Education and from your associations. We want to make sure that when we are sending you a communication, that it includes the information that you need right now to do your jobs and to make those decisions and nothing more. We're also building out a full resource library. We want you to have the tools you need to make the decisions that you need to make in an easy and transparent way. And that includes access to resources on my team when those resources aren't enough. When you don't have what you need on a piece of paper, you can pick up the phone or you can send an email, and somebody on my team will be able to support you. And then finally, the data augmentation process. So because you participate with the clearinghouse, you send us your enrollment and your degree data, we can take that data and we can slam it up against the data that the NSLDS is sending in the completers list. We can also use that data for the student detail and for your program report to really alleviate a lot of the burden that these reporting requirements are going to cause for your institution. So looking at the 3 reporting requirements and what your institution really needs to be thinking about, we've got the completers list, and as I said, that is going to be included in our first release. And then we've got the student detail, which your institution has the option to choose either the standard or the transitional files. And then we have this program file. So the student detail and the program file is targeted for our release 2, and that's around the 4th week of August. But this release 1, the completers list, is coming down the pike fast and furious. So let's talk a little bit more about what that looks like. So from a timeline perspective, we are in that red arrow, July 31st through August 6th timeframe, where things are going live right now for our beta customers. They are getting activated, they are getting their users set up, and they're very shortly going to be in the platform testing that completers list functionality. Our release 2, including that student detail and program file, is targeted for August 27th. Shortly after that, we're going to be iteratively releasing additional functionality that's non-compliance impacting. So these would be suggestions from your schools, from our advisory team, from our beta schools on those nice to haves. Like, it would be better if we could see the information displayed this way. It would be nice to have if we could see all of the users that are in the platform at the same time displayed at the top of the page so we know who's interacting with our data right now. everybody is well aware October 1st is that reporting deadline. And then post October 1st, we're going to start to work in earnest on the annual reporting that will be due next October. So for our release 1 functionality that's coming up here in the first week of August, we're looking at access to the FVT GE platform and the primary landing page. Now, we've approached this landing page a little bit differently than our other landing pages that you may be familiar with. It's much more intuitive. It's going to really walk you through the process. It has on-demand resources that are always available. And it has, I think, a much better look and feel based on the feedback that we've got from our advisory team. We also are including user access provisioning. These are new data elements, including financial aid and institutional costs. So we want to make sure that we are giving you the ability to provision those based on how your school wants to provision access. It includes SSN masking. It includes a comprehensive completers list resource library. It includes the completers list dashboard and the functionality associated with that dashboard. It includes the augmentation of that data, so making sure that all of the data that your school has sent to us that should be on the completers list is actually included on the completers list. And then it also includes the reconciliation of clearinghouse data that you may have data on the completers list that's not in the clearinghouse yet. So resolving those types of things as well. In addition, it also includes PGP encryption for file uploads and downloads. So what exactly is the completers list? So NSLDS is basically going to create this list of students who have completed a GE eligible or non-GE program during the applicable cohort period. So basically this is that cohort period that is prior to the earnings award year. This time the earnings award year is 2022. So they're going to look back from 2022. And for the 2-year period, that includes 2017-18 and 2018-2019. If we're talking about 4 years, because you don't have 30 completers in that 2-year period, they're going to go all the way back to 2015-16 and 2016-2017, and then include those other 2 years as well. NSLDS is going to create this list of your completers based on enrollment data that has already been provided by your institution and is in NSLDS already. Your institution or the clearinghouse on behalf of your institution will receive that completers list. NSLDS, and then in the next few days, is going to be generating those completers lists, and they are going to post an electronic announcement shortly after they generate those completers lists. Once they post that electronic announcement, they are going to start the clock for all schools at the exact same time. You'll have 60 days from the posting of that electronic announcement to complete the completers list. Following the 60-day correction period, NSLDS is going to generate the final completers list. And that is what is going to be used to determine your debt to earnings. Apologies. Your completers list plus your student reporting is actually going to be the information that will be used to calculate your debt to earnings and earnings premium measurements. And those will be generated next summer. Okay, so quick sneak peek at our platform. This is the landing page that I was speaking about. As you can see, it'll have your school information at the top. We're going to have an announcements bar that will give you information on our latest releases into the platform. It will also give you any kind of, eventually any kind of notifications on if you're late in reporting any pieces of the puzzle. It's going to have those 3 tiles at the bottom for each of the 3 reporting components. So you'll see that the student level report and program level report right now are disabled. Those functionalities will come with release 2. The completers list will be enabled as soon as we receive the completers list on your behalf from NSLDS. On that left-hand navigation menu, you'll see a number of different resources, including the ability to contact us. You'll also see a service profile link, and that is going to take you to the service profile page. It will have agreements on your service agreement. It will have a tab where you'll be able to see your users and the roles that are assigned to your users. If you are a user admin, you'll be able to provision access. You'll be able to remove access for users. Your report preferences tab will be populated once you as an institution determine, do you want to go with the standard report or the transitional report? And then report encryption includes your PGP key so that we can make sure that those files are transmitted per your specifications. If we go to the completers list tile on that dashboard, we're going to provide you with some comprehensive instructions on how to complete the completers list. It's going to walk you through what we're calling how to build your worksheet. We want to make sure that this is as easy and as a transparent process as possible. So there's going to be 3 essential steps or buckets of work that you're going to go through. The next page that you'll land on is your actual draft completers list. And you'll see at the top here, what we're calling our pizza tracker that will help you navigate through each of those steps to understand where you are in the completion process. You will have some statistics on your completers list. You'll be able to get to previous versions of your completers list, and you'll also be able to download the version of the completers list that we receive on your behalf from NSLDS. Clicking on this Build Your Worksheet link here will take you to those 3 buckets of work. And this is actually the last slide I believe I'm going to be sharing with you all on the platform. As a side note, we just did a full demo of this completers list functionality today. We did record it, so if you are interested in a more comprehensive overview of the completers list functionality itself, you can watch that to get more information. But this first orange bucket here is where we are going to look at that completers list, and we're going to compare it to the enrollment data that you've previously sent to the clearinghouse. And if there are opportunities where you've sent us graduated statuses for your programs previously, and those are not reflected on the completers list, we're going to give you the chance to say, I would like those to be added. And we're going to make a request to NSLDS on your behalf to add those to the NSLDS enrollment reporting, and then subsequent to that, to any future iterations of your completers list. This second blue tile is all about updating and reconciling discrepancies between the clearinghouse data and graduated statuses that may be on the completers list that are not reflected in the clearinghouse. This may be because your financial aid officer has gone out and potentially updated data in the NSLDS directly versus providing those statuses to the clearinghouse and then the clearinghouse sending those to NSLDS. But we will identify those for you, and then you'll have the option to update those statuses in the clearinghouse as well. That final green box here is all about reviewing and updating exclusions. So you'll be able to see all of the students on the completers list, and the department has asked your institution to declare which of your students are in a prison education program or a CTP program. They don't currently have that information tracked. And so they're asking for it to be a part of this completers list response process. In addition, this is your opportunity to remove any students that may not have Title IV aid, but are included on your completers list for some reason. So we will work with you on building out a worksheet to do that so that you can make those particular updates directly with NSLDS. So that's the quick snapshot of the completers list functionality. Like I said, we do have that recorded webinar where you can see everything end to end in way more detail if you're interested. For our release 2 functionality, this is really going to focus on the meat and potatoes of the reporting requirements, which include the student detail and program file. It also includes reconciling graduated statuses and missing program statuses, we're going to ask you to confirm your qualifying graduate programs, and we are going to provide you with a whole slew of resources related to this functionality and these reporting requirements. So talking a little bit more specifically about the student detail, the reporting requirements give you the flexibility to choose either the standard or transitional option. The standard requires significantly more data. The transitional is focused on the last two award years. There are advantages and disadvantages to both, and we want you to have all of the cards when you make that decision. So we'll talk a little bit about what some of those advantages and disadvantages are. The Clearinghouse has made a very nifty graphic to help walk you through some of those things your institution should consider when you're making that choice between the standard and transitional. And that's available on our knowledge base, which I have a link to at the end of this. So I would encourage you all to, if you're still struggling between what decision is right for your institution, take a peek at that, talk about it amongst your team that's working on this. But some of the things you're going to want to ask yourself are, did the cost to your students increase over the reporting period in a way that is going to negatively impact your debt to earnings? I'm going to show you the calculations here on the next couple slides and talk more specifically about why that's important. Are you concerned with the debt to earnings calculations from previous years and in such a way that you want to be able to address that in future years? The transitional will allow you to address that in future years, whereas the standard will not, because the information you're providing is fixed. However, the standard does allow you to compare more like to like, and your costs may have been cheaper in previous years. Another big consideration is, how difficult is it to pull that additional data? Is it archived? Have you gone through an SIS transition? As you're looking at the quality of that data as it gets older, does the quality of the data diminish? And then, is your institution interested in longitudinal benchmarks on that data as we get through some of these initial reporting requirements? In that case, more data is going to be more beneficial if you want to look at those benchmarks. So if we talk about the calculations that go into the standard cohort, what I want to point out here to you is, if we look at the numerator on this equation, you are going to take your students that were reported in 2017-18 and 2018-2019, and you're going to compare those to the IRS median data for students who graduated in the same time frame, 2017-18 and 2018-2019. They're going to use the earnings for those students from 2022. Now, if we switch to the transitional, you're going to see a big shift happen here. All of a sudden, we're looking at the debt for students that graduated in 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024, and we're still comparing it to students' earnings from 2022 that graduated in 2017-18 and 2018-2019. So if your student, if the cost of attendance has gone up, if your fees have gone up in a substantial way year over year that impact this debt numerator in comparison with the earnings denominator, which does not change between these calculations, then the standard cohort may be more beneficial to your institution. If you are a community college, cost hasn't changed and that isn't a factor, then transitional may be the right approach for you. Or maybe you don't have access to that older data, transitional stale may be the right approach for you. But because you are only providing data for those last 2 years, that is the data that they're going to use to determine this debt numerator. So keep that in mind as you're making your decision. So in regard to determining your student detailed cohort, what the Clearinghouse does is we take the logic that NSLDS has said that your institution must use, and we apply that to the enrollment data that your institution has previously reported to us. So we are going to look at your programs that have at least 30 graduates in the last 4 award years in that 4-digit zip code family. And we are going to build this cohort out for you, depending upon the instruction you give us for the standard cohort or the transitional cohort. And we're going to include all of those fields that we can include based on NSLDS's requirements to minimize the work of your institution having to pull in that data. And so if, for example, we're talking about the annual amount record type, and NSLDS for the enrollment status just wants to know, is the student withdrawn, graduated, or enrolled? And you've provided us with a full-time status or a 3/4 time status. We are going to derive that enrollment status as enrolled on your institution's behalf so that you don't have to do that. So we're going to take as many opportunities to alleviate the burden on your institution from having to calculate that enrollment data or derive that enrollment data or create that enrollment data as possible. We will provide that file to you on our secure site. You will be able to download it, augment it with the financial aid and institutional cost data elements, upload that back to us, and then we're going to run that through a really robust series of validations. Those validations are going to make sure your data meets NSLDS's reporting standard the first time. Once you've cleared those validations and said, I approve this, that is when we are going to send that file to NSLDS on your behalf. And we're going to close that reporting loop for the student detail. So jumping over to the program file, which is the third file type that your institution is responsible for, we have a very similar process for the program file. This file is basically exactly what it says it is. It's program information. It's going to identify your institution's metropolitan statistical area and the states in it, whether or not your program prepares a student for licensure, your program accreditation information, and then it includes the most recently completed award year. So the clearinghouse is going to provide things like your program name, zip code, credential level, total enrollment in the program, including both your Title IV and non-Title IV recipients. We are going to provide your qualifying graduate programs based on the information that you provide us as an institution. We have a process that will validate those with you. And then we're also going to provide the states in your metropolitan statistical area. You will need to confirm whether or not those the program is approved in each of those states that we include in your file. From your institution, you'll need to provide whether or not the program is programmatically accredited, and if so, the name of the accrediting agency, and then the total number of graduates who took the licensure exam and who passed it. Now, I want to caveat that by saying some accrediting agencies don't require that information. If you have one of those accrediting agencies that don't require that, these are optional fields, so you will not have to provide those back. So I want to just spend a minute or so talking about what are we doing to ensure your success. And we've gotten a couple questions on how can the clearinghouse do this, and how can they make sure that we're going to meet these compliance timeframes? You know, what if you miss your deadlines? This has been our #1 priority since December. If you ask anybody across the organization, including our folks in our call center, or any of our executives, anybody at any of our departments, HR, it doesn't matter. They will tell you that getting these compliance reporting requirements right for your institution is our #1 priority. We have allocated additional resources across the business and IT to make sure that this is going to happen, and it's going to happen well. We have augmented additional internal and external resources, and we are approaching this in a different way of developing things. As you saw from our timeline, we are releasing things every 2 weeks to make sure that once the functionality has been tested and once it has been developed and it has been confirmed, we're going to get that out to you so that you can start to utilize it. We're working with our advisory team and our beta schools to really make sure that we are listening to what you need and how you need it. And then we are working actively with FSA and NSLDS to make sure that this solution is going to meet those compliance reporting requirements. And then finally, we are building out that full library of resources, including live resources, to give you that support and confidence to know if you have a question, you're going to get your answer. So just to recap on those three requirements, you've got the completers list. That's going to be due 60 days from the published electronic announcement from the Department of Ed. So we should see that here shortly. So I would keep your ear to the train tracks for that one. And the clearinghouse is going to help extensively with the accuracy of and the augmentation of that data and building your final completers list. There is one part of that process, and that includes your verifying your CTP and prison education programs and removing your non-Title IV recipients, where you will have to go out to the Department of Ed and at NSLDS to make those updates. The other two, student detail and program file requirements, are due by October 1st, and we are going to support the end-to-end processing of that data. You will only work with the clearinghouse on those two parts of the process. We will have comprehensive resources in place for you, and we will work with you to make sure that that data is submitted, validated, and pushed to NSLDS. I've included a resource on here. It's also in our resource library. It's been one of our most asked for resources, which is, what are the data elements that a school needs to provide by file type? If you go out to our knowledge base, you'll be able to download this PDF, but it provides a lot of great insight on what you can start to do now to aggregate those data elements at your institution. So just a quick note about activating. If you are interested in activating, after today's webinar and the webinars that we did earlier this morning and yesterday, we are going to take and we have a notify me link on our financial value transparency and gainful employment reporting page. The link is on the page here. If you scroll down, you'll see a notify me box. If you put your information in that box, we will send out the amendment to you later this week and early next week. So if you are interested in signing up, that is the best way to do it. Otherwise, you can email ge.reporting@Student Clearinghouse, and we can send you a copy. Once you've completed that amendment, we are going to process your SAGE paperwork to direct your completers list to us. And an activations representative will confirm that that paperwork has been processed and set up some time to have a call with your institution. They will walk you through assigning those user roles at your school. And then once we receive your completers list in to the application, you'll get a notification and you will be good to go, ready to start processing that data. So as far as preparing now, if you don't have a plan in place now, we strongly encourage you to start working on one. We know this is one of those efforts that's going to take a village. The schools we've talked to have said that they are working with financial aid, the institutional research office, IT, the bursar, the registrar. This is one of those efforts. It requires cross-campus coordination. And so we strongly encourage you to start having those conversations about where does the data live and how are we going to pull it together. We also encourage you, as you start identifying where that data is, start aggregating it. You will need specific subsets of data for each of those reporting requirements. And we've made those available out on our site so that you know which data elements are required for each of the reports. In addition, make sure you're staying up to date on our FVT and GE information. We update our FAQs on a regular basis. If there are FAQs that are not on there that you feel like other schools would benefit from, please reach out to me and we can certainly add those. And then if you have other questions that are institution specific, please reach out to my team and we're happy to walk through those with you as well. So 3 things to know right now. We're offering this free solution. It's basically an add-on to your compliance reporting that we already do. You can start working now at your institution to aggregate those data elements that'll be necessary for release 2. If you want to sign up for the addendum and you haven't done so already, you can just go to that link and put your information in for that notify me box. Once the final completers list comes out, you will have 60 days to respond to that. The clearinghouse offers 50 days, so we have some processing time for any additional updates that you've made to that. It's important to stress that because that is a different date than the October 1st date. So please keep that in mind. And then continue to stay updated by signing up for our notifications, and you'll receive information on each of our releases. These are our resources here. You'll see on here that we've got the Gainful Employment webpage, we've got our FAQs, we've got our recorded webinars, and then we've got our layouts and the data elements provided by your institution. And then I've got my contact information on here, questions for activating, and our Audit Resource Center team. We are all available and ready to help at the drop of a hat. So please let us know if you have questions. And with that, I am going to stop sharing and we will open it up to the floor for questions.
Sean, we have about 5 questions in the Q&A space.
Okay,
Now 6.
Okay.
I've answered 2, but we have 6 to go.
Sure.
First question is the 30 completers in a 4-year cohort period all students or just Title IV students?
Title IV students. So.
Okay. Second question, is the student file that is mentioned in the slides the same as the AA or TA report?
Can you repeat the first part of that?
Is the student file that is mentioned in the slides the same as the AA or TA report?
Yes. Yeah. So the student detail file will include AA records, which is the annual amount records, and TA records, which are total amount records. If you use the standard option, the first 6-7 years, depending, will all basically be your total amount records. Only the most recent award year will include those annual amount records. If you use the transitional report, only the most recent award year will include those annual amount records. You will include total amount records for your other programs.
Thank you. Okay, is the licensure component optional for DOE?
If your accreditation, if your program accreditation does not require it, then it is optional, yes.
Okay.
That it is, if you pull the NSLDS's formatting guide, it is also listed as optional. We've modeled our formatting guide after the Department of Ed.
Okay. Can you talk more about the requirement to report licensure completion? It's a concern. How does it differ from graduate programs or undergraduate programs?
It depends on your institution. So some programs will have a licensure reporting requirement. We've heard from some institutions that they, once the student has graduated from the program and they go off to take their licensure exam, they have no idea if they passed the licensure exam or even they've even taken the licensure exam. And so because the student is not required to report that information back, they never get access to that data. So depending upon your accrediting agency, they will have requirements around whether or not you have to keep track of that information. And so if you don't know if you have to keep track, you should check with your accrediting agency. And then that will dictate whether or not you should be reporting that information.
Who is allowed to sign the amendment? Some people have received their amendments. And it lists the executive contact. Who would that be?
So it's really going to depend on your institution. It really varies. Sometimes it's your procurement office, sometimes it's your president, sometimes it's your provost, sometimes it's your registrar or financial aid officer. Each institution really has a different way of processing those things.
Thank you. And for the 30 graduates, is it all programs, degrees, and certificates?
I believe it's dependent upon the stipend credential, but let me take that back and I will provide an answer to Brian, and we could potentially, I think, post it in this room, okay, or we could send it with the slides.
All right. And that is the last question if we're going to be sharing this presentation for those who registered. Brian, are you able to share this for the registrants?
Yeah, absolutely. We can. Sean, if you just want to send it over, we can, if you all are okay with that, we'd be more than happy
Absolutely.
to distribute it
Absolutely.
to everyone
Yeah.
who registered.
And
Thank you.
I can send the answers to the two questions we weren't able to address.
We just had the one.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, of the rest we addressed.
Okay, awesome.
That's it, Sean.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. And like I said, we are going to continue to provide resources, as many as possible, to you all. If you have questions, that we will include our contact information. Right now, we have those completers lists recordings. We've got the activation recordings, and we've got some additional general information just about the requirements, very similar to what we went through today. As we move closer to our release 2, we will be sharing additional presentations about student detail and the program file reporting requirements and how the clearinghouse is going to help you meet those obligations as well. But we are happy to answer any kind of ad hoc questions that are specific to your institutions that may come up along the way.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
Great. Well, thank you both for taking the time, and thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to our partners at the independent colleges and universities of Texas too for their support in promoting this. And as was mentioned, we'll get a follow-up out probably either Friday or Monday when the recording posts and we get the slides and the answers to the questions. And so be on the lookout for that, but we'll also distribute the contact information for our colleagues here at the Clearinghouse. So thank you all. I know this is a large lift and a huge focus for so many of you now as we've transitioned a lot of challenges over this last year. So appreciate everybody being so diligent and diving in and working together to support each other throughout the process. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.